Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're going to unpack the sheer philosophical depth of a truly beautiful, universally beloved hymn, Achyutam Keshavam. But listen, we aren't just looking at this as a classic piece of traditional poetry today. Actually, we're going to discover how it serves as a highly practical, step-by-step guide for balancing our deep spirituality with the relentless, everyday grind of our work. If you've ever felt like your professional life and your spiritual life are completely at odds with each other, well, this explainer is going to bridge that gap for you once and for all. Let's dive right in with a massive question that totally challenges the way we view our busy modern lives. Can deep spirituality and daily work actually go hand in hand? We so often compartmentalize our lives, right? We've got a work time where we're frantically answering emails and running errands. And then, totally separate from that, we have our spiritual time reserved for quiet, isolated moments. But this source text dares to suggest that these two worlds are absolutely not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're literally meant to be woven together. So, Section 1, the diverse forms of God. To really understand how to pull off this integration, we've got to look at how this magnificent text establishes divine identity right from its opening lines. That beautiful opening invocation, Achyutam Keshavam Krishna Damodaram, it immediately angers us. It calls upon the infallible, eternal nature of the divine, setting this tone of profound reverence right out of the gate. But it's not just a list of names. It's a very real way of calling out to the ultimate reality, reminding us of both the vastness and the deeply personal nature of the divine from our very first breath. It seamlessly weaves together all of these different names and forms we know so well: Krishna, Rama, Narayana, Janaki, Vallabha. And what's brilliant here is how reciting these names back to back illustrates this incredible underlying unity in how we conceptualize the divine. It's basically telling us that no matter which form you personally feel drawn to, you are tapping into the exact same unified universal source. And that sense of unity is exactly what we're going to carry into our chaotic daily tasks. Moving right along to Section 2, is God truly distant? The text introduces this super common human problem we literally all face, that lingering feeling of separation from the divine when we're just going about our day. When we're buried deep in a spreadsheet, the spiritual world can feel miles away. But the hymn keeps hitting us with this powerful rhetorical question: who says God doesn't come? It completely flips the script on us. It implies that the absence isn't actually on the part of the divine at all. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a gap in how we are actively inviting that presence into our daily, mundane reality. Which brings us to Section 3, examples of ideal devotees. To prove that an intimate connection is entirely possible right here, right now, the lyrics present a theoretical blueprint using some legendary figures of devotion. The text points out that God absolutely does come, but maybe we just aren't calling out with the intense longing of Mira. God sleeps, but we aren't lulling him to sleep with the deeply maternal, everyday care of Mother Yashoda. And God dances, but we aren't letting go and engaging with the pure, unadulterated joy of the gopis. The point here is that these weren't grand, elaborate, impossible rituals. These were everyday, incredibly personal actions: calling out, putting a kid to bed, dancing. It proves that the divine is accessed right through the mundane. All right, Section 4, the convergence of work and devotion. This is the absolute core of our explainer today. We're going to see exactly how these beautiful ethereal concepts apply directly to our modern workflow. There is this explicit, literal instruction right in the lyrics. Keep chanting the name, keep doing your work. Notice it does not say, drop your job and go chant in a cave. It tells us not to abandon our worldly duties, but to seamlessly integrate our devotion right into the dead center of them. Your work itself becomes the vehicle for your spiritual practice. Think about our default mode for a second. Most of us are just slogging through mindless toil, getting easily distracted, totally stressed out, right? But when we take the text's advice and do our work with devotion, by carrying that continuous internal chant, it is a total game changer. We maintain our mindfulness, we remain spiritually grounded. It fundamentally shifts our relationship with our jobs, turning an ordinary, boring task into a literal offering. So, what does meditating on Krishna at all times actually do for us practically? Well, by maintaining this constant mental connection, we cultivate this humming background habit of continuous remembrance. And ironically, instead of distracting us, it actually sustains our focus during our daily tasks. Instead of our minds wandering off to anxieties about the future, we're anchored in spiritual peace. You'll find that your efficiency and your inner calm are dramatically improved, even when the work itself is super stressful.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the final promise of divine vision. We really have to ask, what is the ultimate endgame of weaving this mindful devotion into our everyday work?
It essentially builds this beautiful timeline of mindful devotion. In the present day, our job is incredibly simple. Just chant and work. Do your daily tasks while holding the divine in your mind. The text then assures us that sometime soon, the divine actually remembers you. Your sustained, quiet effort catches divine attention. And that ultimately leads to the future, where God reveals himself. That huge spiritual breakthrough is actually a direct result of your daily integrated effort. That specific final promise from the lyrics, he will give his vision some time. It just fills you with this profound sense of hope and patience, doesn't it? It acknowledges that spiritual realization isn't some overnight hack, but it absolutely assures us that our sincere, mindful effort in our daily jobs, whether you are typing on a keyboard, teaching a classroom full of kids, or sweeping a floor, it will inevitably be rewarded. We just have to keep working and keep remembering. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to look at your own life and ask yourself, how are you going to integrate this mindful devotion into your very next daily task? Because the wisdom of Achyutam Keshavam proves without a doubt that you do not need to retreat to a mountaintop to find spiritual peace. You can find it right there at your desk. Try transforming your next seemingly mundane task into a highly focused act of devotion, and just watch how it changes not only your work, but your entire reality.